Okay, we are continuing on the next part, and we left off at the Chaldean Chronicles, or the Chaldean Oracles of Zoroaster. And we scroll down a little bit. So, this one says cause, God, Father, Mind, Fire, Monad, Duad, and Triad. And it looks like some Greek text. And this is by, it doesn't say who. Well, in any case, I'll just continue. So it says here, this looks like some sort of excerpt or something, because it starts off like with the conjecture. But anyways, but God is he that has the head of a hawk. He is the first, indestructible, eternal, begotten, indivisible, dissimilar, the dispenser of all good, incorruptible, the best of the good, the wisest of the wise. He is the father of equity and justice, self-taught, physical, and perfect, and wise, and the only inventor of the sacred philosophy. Well, that's pretty ambiguous, to be honest. Let me read this big footer. It's a really large footer for this text, and this is concerning this line right here. So, Mr. Taylor, in his collection of the oracles, has arranged them under the following heads. 1. The oracle which he conjectures may be ascribed to Zoroaster himself. This division includes the collection of Celis, and in this collection are marked Z, as in the 8th. 2. Oracles delivered by theurgists under the reign of Marcus Antoninus. These relate to the intelligible and intellectual orders and are here distinguished by a T as in the 4th. 3. Oracles delivered either by theurgists or by Zoroaster, here marked Z or T as in the 2nd. The rest he has placed together as uncertain or imperfect in their meaning, to which he has subjoined a few from the treatise of Letus de Mancebus. We are also indebted to Mr. Taylor for the references to the authors from whom the collection was originally made, and for the addition of several oracles hitherto unnoticed. The latter are distinguished by the letters Te, after the reference as in the 2nd oracle. Eusebius attributes this to the Persian Zoroaster. I have added it to the collection. Okay, so here's the thing with like Zoroastrianism, and I'm not like criticizing it. Well, I criticize everything, but what I'm trying to say about it is that when they're worshiping the like the Almighty God, or so to speak, they avoid idolatry and any type of kind of characteristic or try to like portray like the Almighty One. So like they according to Zoroastrian, you know what I mean, the actual practice of it, when they like worship stuff, they worship fire, and so they don't make idols. They don't like try to say like, oh, this guy, these like Greek gods, they have like eagle faces and they're like synonymous with like bird race type creatures and stuff like that. None of that, nothing of that any sort going on. And it is all within the realm of just like the lack of iconography. I think that's the right word, or something like that. So it's just like completely forbidden. You're not allowed to like depict these beings as such, and if you are, I forgot exactly what there's there's a lecture that I saw, and it was including how I think it was Herodotus's account of the Zoroastrians, and how they say that they depict their god as a human because that it's like not what they are, or like they if that, I don't know if that's right. that was the right quote. It was something like that, but I know for a fact that iconography in like Zoroastrianism is completely forbidden. So, that's just something to kind of like note and kind of have like a key point of, is that they don't describe it in any sort of like way or try to depict it as something. It's like not. It's like because he's like he's not like man. But then that kind of makes me wonder, like so many things like here they're talking about like that. I mean, they're describing it like what he is. You know what I mean? Like you know, he's the head of a hawk. You know what I mean? Like where's that quote right there? Right. So like I don't know. This could be like a misrepresentation of the religion from Eusebius. I don't know. That I mean, it just goes to show how versed I am in like Zoroastrianism, which is not very much, other than just kind of what I kind of seen. Meaning I don't study it. I don't have any like books particularly like going into that type of stuff. Like I have like a book on Buddhism. And just kind of like, you know, how that came about with like Siddhartha and all that stuff, and this whole like branch that started in like in northern like India, and then just kind of branched out from there into all other places. But aside from that, like I said, I don't really have anything on Zoroaster, and like it's kind of hard. It's really hard. So this is the thing too. Is like it's hard for like Westerners or like to kind of put pieces together from like outside of what is being put together in the West, if that makes sense. Like for instance, like a while ago, like I've shown you guys like a picture of like some destroyed like structure that's like etched, or like I don't even know how to explain it. It's like it's just like an out of place like kind of like pillar like structure that like exists on like the side of a mountain in China, but it's like not. There's no context for it. It's like zero context for it. It doesn't make any sense why it's there, but that's like aside from just kind of like looking more so specifically at, you know, what's the origin of history, like going back in time, and like I said, like for like Westerners, it's you only get like I guess kind of like the Abrahamic stuff and all that stuff is like, you know, it's kind of like founded upon in that sort of sense, because like, you know, that's where like the Christianity comes from, and that's kind of like the most influenced thing that's over here in like the West. So we kind of see in that lens. So seeing it in any other type of lens is really, it's hard to like connect it chronologically. And for instance, what I'm talking about like here with like with Zoroastrianism, they don't really have much on it, but it definitely existed at a very old time. You know what I'm saying? Like the same time like some of these old empires and kingdoms were running about over there in like Assyria and, you know, Egypt and whatnot, and I guess like what is to be like some sort of like Thracian or Athenian empires, if that's what they want to call it, like a proto like Trojan War Mycenaean culture that is not influenced by the Minoans, but only traded with them merely. I don't think like I was saying a couple of videos ago, like they were like, we were trying to look at like the empires of Greece that were happening like before that Trojan War and what was over there, and it was telling us like it was just the Minoan civilization just kind of like stamping over all these other cultures, and I just thought that to be it doesn't seem like the right answer. It seems like there's some sort of like old empire that existed over what seems to be in like Greece and stuff like that, and they went to war with Eastern, you know, Turkey and stuff like that. That's a point, and that's how you get the Trojan War and like all of Troy. But see that, like I was saying like before, like this all this stuff happened like before. Well, actually, it happened like after like the Exodus and stuff like that. So it's like it's really important like to see like these major events happening, and just kind of connecting them and seeing like, okay, so like this is how they're saying it chronologically, and like it's almost like based on some of these accounts that like Amenhotep had some that was around during the time of like that war. But it's also important to note that Amenhotep was also a king that ruled after the Exodus, or would have come at a later time period, or somewhere around that time, but definitely before it. And then before the shepherd kings, and understanding who like shepherd kings are and where they come from, and how they kind of like appoint them as something that's just kind of confusing. I'm just looking more into like some of those type of things. I actually have the next book ready. I think I want to get into this book next. It's kind of, it seems like a book that would like obviously get looked over. It just kind of seems like, you know, it's like something you read, but then it's like these are really sound theories. But then I was reading through some more of the book. I only did what I did with this book that we're reading right now. It's just kind of like skim through it and see what comes up when I flip through some pages and see what I find. I kind of just do that with a lot of these books, but I think this one's pretty solid in where it's going. But we really need to continue on this book. I know I've been going off on a tangent here. So the theurgists assert that he is a god and celebrate him as both older and younger, as a circulating and eternal god, as understanding the whole number of all things moved in the world, and moreover infinite through his power, and of a spiral form, Z or T. The mundane god, eternal, boundless, young and old, of a spiral form. What was that, like DNA? For eternity, according to the oracle, is the cause of never-failing life, of unwearied power and unsluggish energy. Hence this stable god is called by the gods silent, which is said to consent with mind and to be known by souls through mind alone. Interesting. Okay. So are they still talking about like the Zoroasters? I know they're talking. Okay, so I guess we'll just continue. I'm reading right here. The Chaldaeans call the god Dionysus or Bacchus Iao in the Phoenician tongue instead of the intelligible light, and he is often called Sabaoth, signifying that he is above the seven poles, that is the demiurgus, containing all things in one containing all things in the one summit of his known hyparxis. He himself subsists wholly beyond, measuring and bounding all things. For nothing imperfect circulates from a paternal principle. The Father hurled not forth fear, but infused persuasion. The Father has hastily withdrawn himself, but has not shut up his own fire in his intellectual power. Such is the mind which is there energizing before energy, that is not gone forth, but abode in the paternal depth, and in the adytum, according to divinely nourished silence, T. All things are the progeny of one fire. The fire perfected all things, and delivered them over to the second mind, whom all nations of men call the first. And of the mind which conducts the Empyrean world. What the mind says, it says by understanding. Power is with them, but mind is from him. The mind of the Father riding on attenuated rulers which glitter from the furrows of the inflexible and implacable fire. I know I'm just kind of skimming through all this, but dude, this is kind of getting into that like almost like metaphysical type of stuff where I just kind of don't like when they start talking about like the monad, duad, and triad, like I really don't understand what they're talking about, other than just like some sort of like frequency existence, or like this type of thing where like things can exist in the sense that it's like a frequency. So it's not like they're or what's called like an inorganic being, where it's like your body radiates a frequency. Your body signatures radiate heat, right? So heat has a frequency, and you're pulsing that field constantly. And of course it's like different when it's localized. You know, your head probably has more brain waves exerting itself than, let's say, some other parts of like maybe your limbs or your stomach or any of that sort. Maybe not your, I don't know, could be either or. But your body itself is always radiating. So there's things that could like exist, like, I don't know, I guess in the air. I don't know if it's like a phenomena or something like that, or like I don't know, it could almost, it's like floating, or like intelligence, but it's just it really is just like a frequency. It's almost as if it's like some sort of like amoeba. It's like something like even more simpler than an amoeba, or like it's like a frequency knowledge like node, or like field. It's like a field of like intelligence. Whether you want to say intelligence is like a being or not, or like a sentient form. See, that's just like the type of stuff where I just can't even like. I don't really like to get into too much detail about that, just because it doesn't make any sense when it comes in like to like this physical world, and the physical world is like all that like we know, like more so than all the other types of worlds, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about at that point, so that's why I don't get into detail with that. But that's why I'm skimming through all this as well. So we'll continue here. So after the paternal conception, I the soul reside, a heat animating all things, for he placed mind in soul, and soul in dull body. The Father of gods and men so placed them in ours. So there's some more Greek. Natural works coexist with the intellectual light of the Father, for it is the soul which adorned the great heaven, and which adorns it after the Father. But her horns are established on high, Z or T. The soul, being a bright fire by the power of the Father, remains immortal, and is mistress of life, and fills up many of the recesses of the world. And that was a Z text. The channels being intermixed, she performs the work of incorruptible fire. For the fire which is first beyond did not shut up his power in matter by works but mind. For the framer of the fiery world is the mind of mind, who first sprung from mind, clothing with fire, binding them together that he might mingle the fountain craters, while he preserves the flower of his own fire. Thence a fiery whirlwind, drawing on the flower of glowing fire, flashed into the cavities of the world, for all things from thence begin to extend downwards their admirable rays. The monad is there first, where the paternal monad subsists. Okay, so there's like a little like footer here that's like from Greek and then also in English. What the Pythagoreans signify by monad, duad, and triad, or Plato by bound, indifferent, or mixed, or we in the former part of this work by the one, the many, and the united, that the oracles of the gods intend the hyparxis power and energy. Okay. Yeah, see, I just... all these words are just like painting a picture I can't really see. I'll be honest with you. The monad is extended, which generates two. For the duad sits by this and glitters with intellectual sections to govern all things and to order each. The mind of the Father said that all things should be cut into three. His will assented, and immediately all things were cut. The mind of the Eternal Father said into three, governing all things by mind. The Father mingled every spirit from this triad. All things are governed in the bosoms of this triad. This is here in the footer. The oracle stands in the text as given by, I'm just going to guess it's Francis Patrius, Stanley, and Taylor. Lobeck shows that the passages in parentheses do not properly belong to it. Should also be some text as connected with the succeeding sentence in Proclus. Alright, this is more stuff I don't really know all too much about. Alright. All things are governed and subsist in these three, for you may conceive that all things serve these three principles. From these flows the body of the triad, being pre-existent, not the first, but that by which things are measured, and there appeared in it virtue, wisdom, and multicient truth. For in the whole world shineth a triad, over a monad rules. The first is the sacred course, but in the middle air, the third or other which cherished the earth and fire, abundantly animating light, fire, ether, worlds. Okay, so there's some footage there, I'm not going to read that. Let's see here. Ideas, intelligibles, intellectuals, ings, senoches, teletarche, fountains, principles, hekate, and demons. The mind of the Father is made a jarring noise, understanding by unwearied counsel. Okay, so here's a big footer that we got right here. The whole of the following division is a system grafted upon the Platonic doctrine of ideas. It is composed of 6 different orders called triads, or each consisting of 3 triads, which have different names in the respective theologies of the modern Platonists and of those who assume the title of Chaldaeans. Both regarded the first cause as the one and the good, from whom proceeded in succession the 3 first orders, which were all ineffable and super essential. Taylor omits these 2 lines from Francis Pat and Stanley insert. Alright, so omniform ideas, which flying out from one fountain they sprung forth. For from the Father was the will and the end, by which they are connected with the Father, according to alternate life from several vehicles. What does that even mean? But they were divided, being by intellectual fire distributed into other intellectuals, for the king previously placed before the multiform world an intellectual incorruptible pattern, the print of whose form is promoted through the world, according to which things the world appeared, beautified with all various ideas, of which there is one fountain. From this the others rush forth distributed and separated about the bodies of the world, and are born through its vast recesses like swarms, turning themselves on all sides in every direction. They are intellectual conceptions from the paternal fountain, partaking abundantly the flower of fire in the point of restless time. But the primary self-perfect fountain of the Father poured forth these primogenial ideas. These, being many, ascend flashingly into the shining worlds, and in them are contained 3 summits. They are the guardians of the works of the Father and of the one mind, the intelligible. All things subsist together in the intelligible world. But all intellect understands the deity, for intellect is not without the intelligible, and the intelligible does not subsist apart from the intellect. For intellect is not without the intelligible, it does not subsist apart from it. By intellect he contains the intelligibles, but introduces the soul into the worlds. By intellect he contains the intelligibles, but introduces sense into the world. For the paternal intellect, which understands intelligibles and adorns things ineffable, has sowed symbols through the world. This order is the beginning of all section. Yeah, this is a really interesting quote, actually. Because, I don't know. If you become like, you know how like that, people always do graffiti and stuff like that, or they'll just be like, hey, so-and-so was here. You know, people like to leave symbols. Intellectual things like to leave symbols if they have the higher intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is actually like, I guess something I can kind of take from this from like a relatable sort of sense, I guess. You know, because, I mean, it's seen all over the place. You know what I mean? Like when somebody's like really smart, they like to use symbols, and then like, you know, that gets into like signing with using sign language, or like, you know, hand symbols and signs and stuff like that. So I mean, that quote's really makes sense. You know. And then here, I don't know what this is. The order beginning of all section. I don't really know. The first order is the intelligible triad of the Platonist, but Sayers says it was venerated among the Chaldaeans as a certain paternal profundity, containing 3 triads, each consisting of father, power, and intellect. The intelligible is the principle of all section. The intelligible is food to that which understands. The oracles concerning the orders exhibit it prior to heaven as ineffable and add it has mystic silence. The oracle calls the intelligible, causes swift, and asserts that proceeding from the Father, they run to him. Those natures are both intellectual and intelligible, which themselves possessing intellection are the objects of intelligence to others. Okay, now that just sounds like alliteration. The intelligible ianges, or is it linges? I don't know. Themselves understand from the Father by ineffable counsels, being moved so as to understand. And then this footer says the second order of the Platonists was the intelligible and at the same time intellectual triad. Among the Chaldeans, it consisted of the linges, sionches, and the teletarche. Because it is the operator, because it is the giver of life-bearing fire, because it fills the life-producing bosom of Hecate, and it instills into the sionches the enliving fire, the enliving strength of fire endued with mighty power. He gave to his own whirlwinds to guard the summits, mingling the proper force of his own strength in the sionches. But likewise, as many serve the material sionches, the teletarchs are comprehended in the sionches. Rhea, the fountain and river of the blessed intellectuals, having first received the power of all things in her ineffable bosom, pours forth perpetual generation upon everything. The intellectual triad of later Platonists corresponds with the fountains of fontal fathers of the Chaldeans. For it is the bound of the paternal death and the fountain of the intellectuals, for he is the power of circumlucid strength, glittering with intellectual sections. He glitters with intellectual sections, but has filled all things with love. To the intellectual whirlwinds of intellectual fire, all things are subservient. Through the persuasive counsel of the Father. Oh, how the world has inflexible intellectual rulers. The center of Hecate corresponds with that of the Fathers. From him leap forth all implacable thunders. And the whirlwind receiving bosoms of all splendid strength of the Father-begotten Hecate, and he who begirds the flower of fire and the strong spirit of the poles, all fiery beyond. Another fontal which leads to the imperial world, the fountain of fountains and the boundary of all fountains. Under two minds the life-generating fountain of souls is comprehended. Beneath them lies the principle of the immaterials. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it off on this last footer right here, so after we read this, and then I'm going to end the video. The last of the intellectual triad was the demiurgus, from whom proceeded the effable and essential orders, including all sorts of daemons. They are according to the respective systems. Of the Platonists are the supermundane, the liberated, the mundane. Of the Chaldaeans, the principles, the azonic and the zonic. The demiurgus was the fabricator of the world and held the same relative position to the three succeeding essential orders as did the first cause to the three preceding or super-essential orders. I have so translated it. Alright, so we'll leave off here. This is a really long text of, I guess, Chaldean oracles of Zoroaster. I have to do some background context on this, because are these I don't think these are like the Avesta, or what is the thing called, the Suravesta? No, I don't think it's called that. It's called something, but we'll continue here in the next video.